The sky above the capital world of Solora was dark, not because of night, but because of the massive swarm ships hanging like shadows. The Varkal swarm had come again. No shields, no talks, just silent destruction. Cities fell one by one. Nothing the Alliance used could stop them. Ambassador Threx stood inside the command chamber, watching red lights flash across the screens. Each red dot meant another world under attack. His hands trembled as he looked around the room. Everyone looked helpless. High counselors, generals, and leaders from 15 different species stood in silence. They had tried everything: plasma bombs, gravity disruptors, even full planet shields. The swarm kept coming. They've breached the inner line, one officer said. We've lost contact with the Boran defense fleet. No one spoke. The Boran fleet had been their strongest. Now it was gone. Just like the others, we must retreat, one counselor said. Retreat where? Threx asked quietly. There's no place left. A moment of silence passed. Then someone from the back of the room said, there is one option. A dark one? Everyone turned. Humans, the voice said. The word spread across the room like cold wind. Some gasped. Others looked shocked. The oldest counselor, a long-necked elder from Quiros, leaned forward and said, we do not speak of them. Why? Not? Threx asked. They are strong. Some say they are the strongest fighters in the galaxy. They are too dangerous, another voice said. They do not follow rules. They fight like wild storms. Threx shook his head. And yet, they survive. Their space is untouched. The swarm never dares to enter it. Because even the swarm fears them, someone whispered. For years, the humans had been silent. After the Great Border Wars, they closed their space and told the galaxy to leave them alone. They were not part of the Alliance. They didn't send diplomats, they didn't trade, they just watched. But rumors said they were building ships, weapons, machines beyond understanding. Now, with no other path left, the room was quiet. Again, Threx spoke carefully. We have asked every friend, every neighbor, every ally. They are all gone. What harm is there in asking the one group the enemy fears? The elder from Quiros closed his eyes. Because once you ask the humans for help, they never forget. And they never walk away the same. Still, no one offered another idea. So Threx sent the message. It was simple, respectful, and honest. To the people of Earth. The Varkal swarm has brought the Alliance to its knees. We ask not for mercy, but for help. If you hear this, please respond. This is our last hope. Then he waited. Everyone waited. Hours passed. Then days. On the 5th day, when all hope had nearly faded, a small blue light blinked on the main screen. It was a reply. A voice filled the room. Calm, clear, and human. Message received. One representative may come. We will listen. The council looked to Threx. He had sent the message. He would go. His ship was small and fast. It passed through silent space, past broken satellites and burned planets. Then, as he reached the border of human space, he saw the warning buoys. Bright red lights, human language, and clear meaning. Do not enter without permission. His ship sent the human code received earlier. Within moments, a massive shadow appeared in front of him. It was a human ship, dark, sharp, and silent. No lights blinked, no sound came, just the reply, follow us. The human escort led him to a planet surrounded by black defense rings. As Threx's ship landed, a group of human guards waited. They wore no colors, no smiles. Just armor and still eyes. A man stepped forward. Ambassador Threx, he said. I am General Clark. Come with me. Threx followed without a word. The hallways were clean, cold, and quiet. Inside the meeting room, more humans waited, men and women of different ranks. Threx could feel their eyes studying him. General Clark spoke first. You said you needed help? Tell us everything. For 2 hours, Threx shared everything: battle reports, maps, losses, and the truth that the Alliance had no chance left. When he finished, the room stayed quiet. Finally, Clark said, We can end your war. Hope sparked in Threx's chest. But, Clark added, we do it our way, no Alliance orders. No shared command, we will use what we must, is that clear? Threx nodded slowly. We agree. Then return to your people, Clark said. We begin tomorrow. As Threx left the base, he looked once more at the giant human ship rising behind him. It didn't glow, it didn't shine. It just waited silent like something very old And very dangerous and for the first time in weeks, Threx felt something strange, hope mixed with fear. The humans were coming. Ambassador Threx stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the stars as they moved past. He was returning to the Alliance, but his mind was still on Earth. The humans had agreed to help, but they had not asked for thanks, payment, or promises. They had only asked for control. He didn't know whether to feel relief or worry. He reached Alliance space. The High Council called for an emergency session. Leaders from across the surviving worlds gathered. Threx stood before them and gave his report. They have agreed, he said. The humans will fight the swarm. Some counselors cheered, others looked uneasy. What did they demand? Asked Counselor Riven. Nothing. Only that they fight their way? No rules, no shared leadership. The room fell silent. They want freedom to act as they choose, Threx continued. They said they will win, but they will not follow our methods. Counselor Venna, a soft-spoken leader from the moon world Ilvos, spoke next. And you agreed to this? Threx looked her in the eyes. Yes, because we had no other choice. The council voted. It passed with a narrow margin. 3 days later, the first human fleet entered Alliance space. They were nothing like the clean, shining ships of the Alliance. Human warships were dark, heavy, and full of scars. Some looked patched together. Others carried strange weapons that pulsed with quiet energy. Their lead ship was called HDS Vigil. No one knew what HDS meant, but the word Vigil felt cold and powerful. The Alliance sent a small team to greet them, including Threx, as he stepped. Aboard the Vigil, he saw rows of human soldiers, calm, silent, and focused. They did not look proud. They looked ready. General Clark met him at the main hall. We've studied your data, Clark said. We found a pattern in the swarm's attacks. They use tunnel jumps through subspace, same entry points every time. We'll cut them off there. How? Threx asked. By setting a trap, bait, and once they take the bait, we break them. What bait? Clark didn't answer right away. Then he said, a colony. Threx stepped back. You mean a real one, with people? Yes, but we'll move them quietly. They won't be there when the swarm arrives. Only the signal will remain. The swarm will come. And we will be waiting. Threx hesitated. That is a dangerous gamble. War is full of gambles, Clark said. But we don't lose often. Plans moved quickly after that. The humans chose a small world called Noxon, a border colony that had already been evacuated. They sent a false signal, making it look like a command center still operated there. Then they placed ships in deep orbit, hidden in the planet's shadows. When the swarm came, they came fast. 12 ships, large and full of fire. What happened next shocked the entire galaxy. Instead of charging, the human ships stayed still. They allowed the swarm to draw closer. Then, when the enemy ships entered orbit, the Vigil sent a burst signal. Within seconds, strange energy nets launched from the humans' hidden satellites. The swarm's ships were caught in the webs. Engines stalled. Then came the real strike. Human warships dived from space, firing weapons no one in the Alliance had ever seen. Blue flames, silent beams, and strange missiles tore through the swarm. Their ships didn't just explode, they melted, collapsed, or simply vanished. Threx watched from a safe zone nearby. He couldn't speak. He had seen battles before. He had seen losses and victories. But this was something else. The battle was over in less than 8 minutes. A full swarm strike force destroyed in silence. Humans didn't cheer. They didn't stop to take trophies. They scanned the area, checked for survivors, and moved on. Later, when the Alliance leaders reviewed the footage, many could not believe it. They destroyed the swarm like it was nothing. One whispered, and they lost not a single ship, said another. How is that possible? General Clark gave the answer when Threx asked him directly. We study, we prepare. And we don't care about style or beauty, we care about results. Threx nodded slowly. Your weapons, where did you get them? Clark only said, Earth makes its own tools. Soon, more victories followed. Humans laid strike groups deep into swarm-controlled space. Every time they returned with results. The swarm began pulling back. The Alliance, once on its knees, now stood again but behind human shields, and with every victory, Threx noticed a change. Young commanders started copying human tactics. Soldiers trained the human way. Ships were redesigned to match human war styles. Hope returned, but it came with a question that no one dared to ask out loud. What price will we pay for this kind of help? Threx stood again on the bridge of his ship and looked at the stars. Why no longer felt safe or familiar. Behind the victory there was a shadow. Humans had answered the call, but what else had they brought with them? Ambassador Threx watched the growing crowd from the balcony of the Silora command tower. The people below were cheering, waving flags, and singing in many different languages. It was the first time in years that the capital had seen celebration. The Varkal swarm had not attacked in 10 days. Humans had taken over the front lines. Their ships moved in silence but with purpose. They struck deep into swarm space, taking back colonies thought lost forever. They used strange weapons, odd tactics, and confusing strategies. Even when outnumbered, they won. The Alliance people were amazed, but Threx was not cheering. He stood with General Elian, a military advisor from the Silurian Guard. They're happy, Elian said. Shouldn't we be too? Threx nodded slowly. We should, but I wonder what comes next. What do you mean? Threx pointed toward the main screen where a map showed human ship movements. They've set up new command posts. They've changed our communication codes. And look at this training camps for our soldiers run by them. Elian frowned. They are helping us. Maybe their way works better? It does, Threx admitted. But what happens when we no longer remember our own way? Just then, a new report came in. The swarm had launched an attack on a research station near the edge of Alliance space. It was a quiet place, not meant for battle. Scientists, not soldiers, lived there. The station sent a distress signal. The Alliance was too far away to help in time. But the humans were already there. The Tempest, a human assault cruiser, responded first. Threx and the Council watched the live feed in the chamber. The swarm sent 4 ships. The Tempest went alone. It didn't hide. It didn't wait. It charged. The Galactic Council gathered in secret. Leaders from all 3 galaxies came together in a hidden chamber. The room was filled with silence and tension. For years, the Council had watched the strange events involving human ships, the disappearances of Valari and Shentar crews, the retreat of pirates, and the failed Drovak attack. Now, they had to decide what to do. The Council leader, a wise elder named Saren, spoke first. His voice was calm but firm. We have no choice. Humans are protected by something beyond our understanding. Another leader, a Drovak general, growled. Does that mean we surrender? We cannot bow to fear, Saren shook his head. Not surrender. Respect. He pointed to a hologram showing a human ship moving peacefully through a dangerous nebula. They do not seek war. They do not carry weapons of mass destruction. Yet no one who attacks them returns. A Shintar diplomat added, We tried to capture one. We lost our crews. The humans did not fire a shot, but we were stopped. This is not just strength, said a Valari envoy. It is something greater, something we cannot fight. The room grew quiet. Sern continued. We must accept that humans have power. We do not understand. It is wiser to avoid conflict with them. The Council agreed on one rule. No species shall attack a human ship, not because of treaties or laws, but out of respect and fear. They would watch humans carefully. Learn from them, if possible, but never challenge their ships. Back on Zolan 7, Elric smiled when he heard the news. Finally, he said. The galaxy understands, Maya nodded. It is peace through power. Humans continued their journeys. They helped planets in need. They traded goods and knowledge, but all the while, their true protection remained hidden. They did not boast or threaten. They simply moved through space. Untouched. Species across galaxies whispered stories. Stories of the humans, who carried an unseen guardian, stories of ships that passed safely through the darkest places, and stories of warriors who turned away, knowing they could never win. LRIK looked at the stars, thinking of the future. Humans will lead the galaxies one day, he said softly, because their strength is not just in weapons or ships. It is in something deeper, something that makes even the most aggressive species think twice. And so the galaxy changed. Not with fire and war, but with respect and fear, for the humans were not just another species, they were a force that could not be touched, and that was why the most aggressive species in 3 galaxies would never, ever attack a human ship again. The human ship didn't use standard weapons. Instead, it launched a series of small pods, dozens of them. The swarm, confused, turned to destroy the pods. But each one exploded with a strange white flash, jamming the swarm's targeting systems. Then the Tempest fired a single beam, thin, almost invisible. It sliced through space and cut one of the swarm ships clean in half. The battle lasted just 5 minutes. 3 swarm ships were destroyed. The 4th ran. The station was saved. Once again, the humans had done the impossible, but when Threx later visited the research station, he found something strange. "You should have seen them," one of the scientists said. "They didn't even speak to us. They just acted like they had done this 100 times before." "And did they ask anything?" Threx asked. "No," the scientist said. "They left without saying a word." Back at the command tower, Threx met with General Clark. "Why do your ships act alone?" Threx asked. "Why no backup?" "We don't wait for others to act," Clark said. "When something threatens the mission, we deal with it." "But what about losses? Your people take risks." Clark looked Threx in the eye. "We are used to risk. It's how we survived. Your alliance builds walls, we build hammers." Threx sat quietly for a moment. "Some say you don't show mercy." Clark didn't flinch. "Mercy has its place, but not in war. Mercy comes after victory, not during." Threx nodded. The words made sense, but they still felt heavy. Later that day, a new issue appeared. A small alliance fleet had been surrounded by swarm ships. They called for help, expecting the humans to come. The humans did respond, but they didn't save everyone. They only rescued the most important ship, leaving 3 others behind to be destroyed. When asked why, the human fleet commander said, "The mission was to protect the data, not the fleet." The Alliance Council argued for hours. How can they leave people behind? "They saved the objective," others said, "but at what cost?" Threx stood and said, "This is how humans fight. They aim to win, even if the path is cold. We knew this when we called them." The room grew quiet again. Outside, the people still cheered. They didn't know about the ships left behind. They didn't see the cost. They only saw victories and safety, but Threx saw the change spreading. Young officers in the Alliance were now saying human phrases. Training videos from Earth were being used in schools. Even the Alliance anthem was changed in one world to match a rhythm from a human battle song. "We are becoming them," Threx whispered to himself. The humans had brought strength. They had brought peace. But they were also bringing something else, something harder to see. A new way of thinking. And once it spread, it would not go away. The Varkal swarm had grown quiet for weeks. The Alliance dared to hope that the worst was over, but Ambassador Threx and General Clark knew better. War was never quiet for long. One morning, the warning sirens screamed across Celeris skies. An emergency broadcast lit every screen. The swarm was attacking the Alliance's capital world, the heart of their people. The council gathered in panic. Ships scrambled to defend, but many were outnumbered. This was no small raid. It was a full invasion. Threx looked at the screens. Swarm ships poured through space lanes like a flood. Explosions lit the dark sky. Cities shook. People ran for shelters. Then human ships appeared. Dozens of them. Not in neat lines, but scattered, wild, and fast. They did not move like Alliance fleets. They moved like predators. General Clark's voice came through Threx's "Come. Hold tight, we're going to turn this battle." The swarm Hit first, huge energy blasts tore through human ships. Several exploded. But the humans did not retreat. Instead, they used a tactic no one expected. Human ships crashed into swarm vessels. Not gently. Not carefully, they rammed. Threx watched in shock as a massive human destroyer slammed into a swarm battleship. Sparks flew, alarms blared. The human ship shook but stayed in control. The swarm ship exploded. Another human ship fired a strange weapon. It created a black hole bubble between two swarm ships. The enemy ships were pulled together and crushed. Alliance commanders gasped. The humans were fighting differently. They did not wait for orders. They did not protect their own at all costs. They fought to destroy. The battle raged for hours. Swarm ships kept coming. Human ships kept fighting, and slowly the tide turned. The swarm lost more ships than ever before. Many began to retreat, but the cost was high. Many human ships were damaged. Some were lost. When the battle ended, Threx and the Alliance leaders met with General Clark. You lost many ships, Threx said carefully. Clark nodded. Yes, but the swarm lost more. We are willing to pay the price. Your methods? They are different from ours because we don't fight like you, Clark said. We fight like humans. Sometimes it means losing a ship to save a fleet. Threx thought about the hundreds of Alliance ships lost in previous battles. Many fell trying to save others. What will happen if we continue like this? Threx asked. Clark looked out the window. Then we will win the war. But it will change who you are. The council was silent. Some leaders whispered of fear and loss. Others spoke of hope and survival. Threx felt torn. The humans had saved them. But at what cost? In the weeks after the battle, Threx visited human bases on Alliance planets. He saw soldiers training Alliance troops. Their drills were harsh and strict. No room for mistakes. He met human engineers working on strange new weapons for the Alliance fleet. He saw how humans rebuilt broken Alliance ships sometimes, stripping away old technology to replace it with their own designs, and everywhere. Threx heard stories of human soldiers taking hard choices, stories of captured swarm prisoners who were not given mercy, stories of worlds where human forces ruled like commanders. Not allies. Some Alliance worlds welcomed this, others resented it. Threx knew the truth. The humans were no longer just allies. They were becoming rulers. And the Alliance was changing. One night, Threx sat alone in his quarters. He opened a small box, a gift from General Clark. Inside was a small medal, worn and scratched. On it was written, "For those who fight with honor and win with courage." Threx held it tight. He whispered, "We had no choice. We needed you." But deep inside, he wondered if the Alliance would ever be the same again, and if that was a price worth paying. Years had passed since the humans first arrived in Alliance space. The Varkal swarm had been pushed back, broken, and scattered. The galaxy felt safer, quieter, but Ambassador Threx knew that peace was never simple on the world of Salora. Threx visited a new human base. It was large, full of machines, ships, and soldiers. Humans worked with Alliance engineers and commanders side by side. A young soldier approached Threx. She wore Alliance armor but carried a human weapon, a strange rifle with glowing parts. "Ambassador," she said, "we train every day. The humans say it is the only way to survive." Threx nodded. "And you believe them?" She smiled faintly. "We have to." Inside the base, Threx met General Clark again. Clark showed him the latest project. New Alliance ship built using human designs. It was faster, stronger, and carried weapons no one had seen before. "This will keep the Alliance safe," Clark said proudly. "And what about the people?" Threx asked. "What will happen to those who do not want this change?" Clark shrugged. "The galaxy changes. Those who do not change fall behind." Threx walked through the base, seeing Alliance soldiers practicing human tactics, quick strikes. No mercy, total control. He also saw Alliance leaders meeting with humans, planning future defenses and strategies, but not all was peaceful. On some Alliance worlds, protests had started. People did not like the human way. They missed old traditions, old rules. Old honor, Threx heard stories of arguments and fights between Alliance and human soldiers. Some worlds asked humans to leave. The council tried to calm the unrest. Threx was sent to speak with leaders of the protests. Humans saved us, he said, but we must remember who we are. One leader, a fierce woman named Lyra, replied, "We owe them, but we are not them. Do not let us lose ourselves." Threx promised to raise their voices. Back on Salora, Threx thought about what he had seen. The Alliance was stronger. The Alliance was safer, but the Alliance was different. The humans had brought many things: strength, knowledge, power. But also a new way of thinking, a way that sometimes ignored mercy. A way that sometimes forgot old values. One evening, Threx stood on the balcony and looked up at the stars. He thought of the day they had sent the call for help. He thought of the humans replied. He thought of the victories and losses, and he asked himself a quiet question: had they saved the Alliance? Or had they lost something more important? He didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing for sure: the galaxy would never be the same. And the humans, the most feared species, had become its new masters. Years had passed since the humans first entered Alliance space. The Varkal swarm was defeated, but its shadow still lingered. Ambassador Threx stood on the balcony of the Salora command tower, looking out at the stars that now shone over a quieter galaxy. The Alliance had changed. Human ships and soldiers were everywhere. They taught new tactics and built new weapons. They ruled parts of the Alliance's space, not as enemies but as something new: leaders, protectors, and sometimes rulers. Threx met with council leaders from many worlds. Some welcomed the change. They said the humans saved them when no one else could. Others worried they were losing their own way. "We won the war," said one leader from the moon world Ilvos. "But did we lose ourselves?" Threx listened quietly. He remembered the day the Alliance sent a message to Earth asking for help. The humans came fast, and they fought harder than anyone thought possible. But the question still haunted him: had the Alliance saved itself? Or had it become the thing it once feared? One evening, Threx received a call from General Clark. The human commander invited him to a meeting on a newly built human station near the edge of Alliance space. As Threx arrived, he saw the station was filled with ships, soldiers, and machines unlike anything he had seen before. It was the center of human power in the galaxy. Clark greeted him with a nod. "Ambassador, the galaxy is changing." "Yes," Threx said. "And not all changes are easy." Clark smiled slightly. "Humans fight to survive. And sometimes that means hard choices, your ways." "Some say they are harsh," Threx said. "Harsh, yes, but effective." They walked through the station, passing soldiers training, scientists working on new technology, and commanders planning future defenses. Clark stopped and looked at Threx. "We never wanted to rule the Alliance, only to protect it. But power comes with responsibility," Threx nodded. "And what if the Alliance loses its own identity?" Clark looked far into space. "Then it will find a new one." Later, Threx stood alone on the station's balcony. He looked down at the stars and planets below. He thought of the Alliance's past of peace, unity, and tradition. He thought of its future strength, survival, and change. He realized that the Alliance had survived not by staying the same, but by becoming something new. Something stronger. Something feared. Something human. Threx smiled softly. The galaxy would never forget the day they turned to the most feared species for help, because it was the day the Alliance became more than just itself. It became a force no one could ignore. And when humans came, the war ended, but a new era began.